All right. We should be live, world. So if you can hear us, see us, feel free to say hello in the chat. My name is Ailish Wasserman. This is Tisha Gerhart, and it is the end of August. So, and I'm just gonna. We usually start out with talking about the topic, but speaking of August, Tisha and I were just kind of having a laugh. And Tisha, what's behind you there? Is that the August calendar or the July calendar?
It is the July calendar. You mean tell me August has started and almost over?
So the July calendar is up. I wonder how that connects to our topic today, Tisha.
Oh, I think it is that it brings it much more relevant than what we know in terms of investing in ourselves and taking time to do that. Time flies so fast. It also makes me think about goals I've had between, the things that I had planned for August. Did I get it all done? I don't know.
Mhm.
Because obviously I'm still in July.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I want to
So
talk about that today,
yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about time, energy. Today's topic is investing in you. So, welcome to Authentic Leadership Live. Every month, we hope to dive into the essence of leadership through storytelling, sharing unique perspectives, and exploring hot topics to inspire and empower leaders on their journey to authenticity and success. And our mission at Schaefer Leadership is to really provide inclusive leadership development so that individuals, communities, and organizations can reach their full potential. And we can't reach that full potential. We can't be that servant leader without investing in ourselves. So, this topic today is about the ROI of you. And we're going to be talking about really three things. Our conversation tends to go where it goes, and that's why we love these chats. Is they're organic, they're authentic, and so we want to talk about today investing in you. What does it look like? What impact it has, and barriers, and that's a significant one. So welcome for those that are just joining us, and of course, quick introduction to us. If you haven't watched us before, my name is Ailish Wasserman, and I am our program director here at Schaefer Leadership. My mission is really focused on cultivating confidence, inspiring self-discovery in others. And here's Tish.
Well, hello. I am Tisha Gerhart, Chief Facilitation Officer at Schaefer Leadership Academy. And, I'm excited to be here this morning and to think about my mission, because if I don't think about it on a daily basis, I can get off track pretty quickly. But it is to inspire and make a difference wherever I'm at so that people feel valued and add value to others. Because ultimately, I think that's what it's about is helping others be the best they can be. And in that, Ailish brought up as we were in the room here getting started, you think about self-development for ourselves and servant leadership. If I'm not serving others, which I believe I'm called to do, then am I really investing in me if I'm not investing in others? I don't know. It's something I want to talk about today.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Well, and I'm glad that we started off with our missions, Tisha. We always start this series off with our missions, and I think about, uh, if we are not investing in our mission, then are we investing in ourselves? Do we know what that mission is, and do we know how to invest in that mission? And because one thing that I think about when it comes to investing in ourselves is, are we able to lean into our mission and our strengths? What are our strengths? We talk a lot about strengths and leadership development. That is connected to our mission. Are we spending time utilizing those strengths and uh, really having that mission come to life? And so that's just an initial thought I want to put out there.
Yeah, well, and many of us, and those of you watching, when you say that, Ailish, I think about the philosophy behind strengths, the assessment. And part of that is honing in on your strengths. Because if we spend time and energy on the things yes, we should get better. Yes, we can grow ourselves and develop skills, because I think that's important. But what are your strengths, and are you pursuing a higher level to keep raising the bar for what you're really good at? Which I think will bring along the things that maybe aren't low hanging fruit, if you will,
Mhm.
because if you're developing yourself and you're thinking about your strengths, some of that other stuff will come into place, to help you grow in other areas.
I love that. It's really foundational. So things, if you have that understanding and foundation, other things will come along. And that, that really kind of brings us to this first understanding, as we said, investing in you. What does that mean?
Mhm.
And
Well, I think it,
yeah, go
well,
ahead.
I think we're having a little bit of internet issues,
We
so
are.
sorry if it's me, Ailish, I don't know. So if I interrupted you there. But I was really thinking about, and as you started out, I think it's taking a moment and starting with some self-discovery,
Mhm.
and figuring out, asking yourself, and we talk about this in leadership all the time, but as leaders, do we do it? Do we take a moment and reflect on, here we are today, Ailish and Tisha and Schaefer Leadership Academy. What do we enjoy most about our jobs? Do we really sit for a moment? Because what happens is we're moving and we're grooving, and we're facilitating, we're coaching, we're organizing, doing all these things, but do we ever really take a pause and ask ourselves, what do I enjoy most about what I'm doing? And what is draining my energy? And how can I not allow that to happen? Right? How can I be aware of that more and figure out how to work through those things?
Mhm, mhm. Right. And I think energy is really key to the return and investment of self. And we talk about it's not just time management, it's energy management, understanding your battery, how to manage your energy. And if you're not sure about that, really looking at clues, doing what I would kind of call like an energy audit of sorts. Being aware of your own daily habits. And specifically, there's many ways you could do this. You could Google energy audit, but if you just look at it in simple terms, like what gives you energy and what drains. So what are energy givers and what are drainers? And that can be different for everybody. And that's something that Tish and I just started to talk about with this topic in general, is that when it comes to investing in you, that's going to be very different for every single person. And we have to be mindful of that because we can see what others are doing, but ultimately we have to do what's better for ourselves. And so as far as energy drainers, Tisha, what drains your energy?
That's a really good question, because what I'm going to just be honest and vulnerable, is what drains my energy is when I need to sit down and write everything down, or I'm not a journal person, but
Mm-hmm.
I know it's it's a flip for me. If I'm more organized and I'm planning, which I'm not a very good planner, my family will tell you that. I don't know that Ailish may tell you that, but that drains me because I am, let's go, let's move, I'll figure it out along the way type mindset. However, it's underdeveloped for me because I don't do it well. So if
Mm-hmm.
I was more skilled in that, and that became a part of my routine every day. And there's been times in my life where I've made that a part of my routine. I get up and, I probably have four of them over here. I really, I have some of my favorites. It's interesting. Here's an AM and PM one. And so get up in the morning and write down what the goal is and what I need to do, and really organize my thoughts as to before the day starts. And then reflect on that at the end of the day. Okay, this is what happened and this went well, and this is what I need to be doing tomorrow. So that's that PM piece. I have the books, if you will. I have the tools to do that, but it's underdeveloped because it hasn't become a pattern for me. It has not become a habit for me. And so
Mm-hmm.
when I think about something that's that I need to grow, it would be that, because when I was doing that, I think I was more successful because it was planned out. And then what is a joy for me or an energy is that I can mark it off my list. I did it. I did it. Oh, and look at the results. Instead, now I kind of have it all here. Um,
Mm,
so just thinking about the time and organizing the time, because it really is investing in you. And I know folks who are better at that than me. I just spent some time presenting with Peggy Sonova, and she journals every morning. She writes down that goal every morning and she reflects on it. And she says, why, I'm like, I wish I was better at that, because to me that can be it can be an energy zapper for me, but for her I see her energy. I see that happening for her, and I want that. But she says, I imagine, this is her reply to me, you do that up here, which works too. So I don't know exactly what I want you to take from that, other than I know I could be better, and it's underdeveloped skill for me to really plan ahead and then celebrate some small wins that have given me energy
mm,
and plan those moments out a little bit better.
mm. Wow. I took a lot from that, Tish. I mean, and I love where our conversation goes because we were talking about energy. And you were being honest and vulnerable about, what you are kind of struggling with. But I think the main thing that I got out of that is that investing in you is connected to habits, right? And in other words, investing in you, make that a habit. Make habits around investing in you. And I think that's like a really key point to what we're talking about here, because when I initially think about this topic, I don't think about necessarily putting habits in place. And yet, all these other things that we do in our lives, we think about, okay, what are some daily habits that we have? We brush our teeth, hopefully. We do different things, but what are habits that actually invest in us and connect back to our mission?
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, I know we're going to get into some barriers a little bit, Ailish, but I think the barriers hold me back personally. My excuse is I don't have time, right? I'm a going, I know what my morning looks like. I give myself just enough time to do what I know I need to do to prepare. Could I not add another 10 minutes in there? Could I not do that? So that excuse, that we believe, right? It's that thought that we believe. I don't have time. I do have the ability to build in time. So it's changing that mindset a little bit. So it doesn't feel like you can't do it, I guess. It's because busy schedules, that's going to happen for everybody. But what's my responsibility to myself? What's my responsibility to my mission, which brings me joy? And
Mm,
and thinking how that aligns with where I'm spending my time and energy.
mm, yeah, yeah. I it makes me think about that it's really about use the word. I think you might have used the word manifest earlier, perhaps. Yeah, and I think about how we can do this for ourselves, how we can manifest this, but there's only so much time in the day. And what can we do more of to invest in ourselves and our mission, in our mission, but also what might we do less of? What are some detractors? What are some things that are taking our time? Because if you're going to add an extra 10 minutes in the day for something, that might be taking away something else, but that something else might not really be an investment in you. So what are we doing less of so that we can invest more?
Well, and I think about, and Schaefer has embraced this, the concept of micro learning, and even 10 minutes. 10 minutes isn't a whole lot. I think about exercising. Why can't, 10 minutes just to go out and exercise? That's just 10 minutes of your day. How many hours, you have 24 hours in your day. You can't give 10 minutes to do a little micro learning, do a little exercising, do a little journaling, whatever that looks like. And I think growth requires commitment, And how do we put it on our calendar, whether it's an internal calendar or, an external calendar, and it's non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's non-negotiable. And I mean, this just opens a lot of things up. But, again, building habits, and if it's non-negotiable, how are we being accountable to ourselves? Do we need an accountability partner? What do we need to keep focused on that time that we're investing in ourselves, whether it's, like you said, micro learning or something else? Because when it comes to investing in yourself, one topic I do want to bring up, and Tish and I talk about this all the time, is especially in the work that we do, we are lifelong learners. We don't want to stop learning, but Tish and I, we can get in our field, we can get very busy. We're coaching, we're facilitating, we're giving to others. And so how are we pausing and saying, you know what, I need to invest in some professional development, I need to invest in some micro learning. And some of that, it might not just be micro learning, because the best learning, as Tish and I know, can be deep learning, and that takes time. And I think about, Tish, we talk about facilitating, and a lot of what we do, we facilitate 90-minute sessions or even longer, because we get to a deeper level of learning. And so are we allowing ourselves to do that deeper level of learning, Tish?
Well, I'm not so good at it. I'm just going to be honest. And the more I thought about this and just doing some research as we begin to prepare, I think sometimes and I don't know, in past, I don't think I feel that way now, but it was brought up in some of my research that we want our organizations to invest in us and give us time for that development and organize that development. But if it's truly investing in ourselves and it's truly self-development for us as a person, as a whole, in our work or outside of work, we have to be committed to take some ownership of that. Does that does that resonate with you a little bit, Ailish? Because sometimes I think with even the work that we do, well, we should, we should do this through work. We should do this, and it's I got to do it holistically, because it's about me.
Yeah.
I can't be follow the mission that I wish to follow in every aspect of my life if I'm not able to invest in me because it's important to me, not just because it's important to Schaefer. That's where I'm getting at.
Uh,
And so, I think about that. And because it's about developing who I am so that I can be the best I can be wherever I'm at. And so to rely on somebody else to do that for me, it's up to me. It's up to me to schedule the time. It's up to me to figure out and have that commitment of the habit to put it on, even on my calendar, or to say, hey, Ailish, I know you want to meet at 9. I have that reserved for this. Can we meet at 9:30? Would that work for you? To like stick up for ourselves. Because what's the fear, maybe, or the discomfort? It's growing can be hard. Change can be hard. And I don't know if sometimes for me personally, I'll put excuses in there. Oh, Ailish needed me. I didn't have time to do that. Or, I got to go over to this organization. So maybe tomorrow I'll fit it in. And so it isn't really that commitment. It's not, it's a negotiable instead of not.
mm, yeah, yeah. We often commit to ourselves last, Tish. We often commit to ourselves last. And where does that put us to actually serve others? And because this is a question I wanted to bring up today. We talk about servant leadership. This is the foundation of what we talk about at Schaefer Leadership. And so servant leadership, to its core, means serving others. So my question to all of you is, how does servant leadership and investing in yourself, how do those two connect?
And please, if you're online, comment, because Ailish and I, we're discovering this too for ourselves. We know we need to get better at it. And one of the things Ailish has often shared with me is taking time away. Rest is productive. And I don't do that very well because I feel like I always should be engaged in something or doing something. but rest is productive. Rest gives your mind time to reflect, to look for opportunities, just to be still in a moment. And I'm not good at that, because if I was, I think that would help me manage some of the distress and maybe setting up better boundaries.
Yeah. So you share that you're not good at that. So, you know, what leads you to kind of share that, and how do you hope to kind of set those better boundaries?
Hmm. Well, I let why I'm not good at that. Let's first start with that, is because in how I was raised and who I was raised by is you productive, and being productive means you're doing something. Being
Mm,
productive, if you're sitting, you're idle.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm,
if you're, taking a pause and just looking out into the yard, or and I don't mean, to me, I think we need to figure out what rest is. It's not scrolling on your phone. At least not for me. When I think about true rest, it's not watching or binge watching my favorite Netflix, scrolling on my phone, making phone calls. It is about being still.
mm, mm,
And and so I'm not good at that, because I believe that I have to be moving to make a difference, to accomplish a task, to be productive. And so that's where I struggle. For an instance, I'm giving you an example. Me and my husband we had a drive last night, and there was a lady, an older lady, and looked to be maybe retired, out there in her flower bed picking the weeds. And he says, "That's going to be you," because there's always something to do physically. But I think if we want to really take self-care and understand what we need to take a pause in a moment, and mentally take a rest, physically take a rest, to figure out what that is, in terms of setting boundaries and dealing with stress.
mm. Really good nuggets there. You know what stood out for me there is the phrase "moving to make a difference." Moving to make a difference, which is great. But at the end of the day, too, like what's also true here is is considering the alternative that making a difference is not just about moving,
Mhm.
because in order to have that impact, what do you need to do for yourself? All those things that you were just talking about. And so you're fulfilled by moving to make a difference. But you can't be moving 24/7.
No, no, and as we talk about this, Ailish and I have talked about burnout. I mean, if we're constantly, moving and not thinking about our return on investment, meaning ourselves, are we showing up the best we can if we don't take a pause? And
Mm,
so, for who I am, how do I do that well? And you also mentioned a little bit earlier, which I think is vital. Who is my accountability partner? Who is my personal board of directors? Who's going to give me honest feedback? Ailish is really good at this. Tisha, telling me, hey, what are you doing to take care of yourself? We need to schedule a time for you to take a little time and reflect. Or where do you want to develop yourself? Let's take a week and do that. Now, we've been talking to them about that, Alice, for a couple years now, and neither one of us have done that. and
yeah.
and so I think we need to have the conversation around it. Is it doable? Maybe we start out small. Maybe it's just one day. Maybe it's just a half a day, um, of self-reflection, self-development, little micro learning throughout a morning, and then taking a moment and sharing that with each other. What did you learn today in that half an hour of micro learning? And for me, because I'm an experiential learner, for Ailish to share that with me, and then I can begin to play off your experiences and what you learned. So that
Mm,
accountability partner is so important, to keep the momentum.
mm, yeah, momentum. Momentum is not just about moving. There you go. Momentum is not just about moving. What does that momentum mean for you? And the other thing I wanted to point out, going out back a few steps, is that however you're doing that self-care. Everyone will do self-care in a different way. And so when we think about rest, Tisha was talking about, well, for me, rest is being still. And so I think it's important to perhaps, as I reflect, ask ourselves, what does the rest, what's the best version of rest for you? Like, what works, what's rest for me versus what's rest for you and somebody else is different. And so even just understanding what's behind rest, what does that actually mean? Because we can say it, but what does it actually mean for us individually is something I think about reflecting on.
Oh, I do too, because right now, if you ask me what is rest to me, I don't think I have I really have to think about that. How do I rest my mind? I in strengths, I'm an ENFJ. Learning styles, which we do at Schaefer, I'm all at the top. My mind is constantly moving. How do I get it to move in a way that's not energy zapping and productive and gives me rest? That's really hard because it doesn't stop.
Oh, well, everyone's brain and mind works a little bit differently. And I keep using, as I've noticed, um, me talking and also Tisha talking, but I keep using the word different. You probably noticed I've used that word multiple times. And so I want to kind of bring that to the forefront and just mention something that Tisha and I kind of alluded to as we were preparing for this, is that, again, we are all very unique in how we handle our energy, how we invest in ourselves. But I think one of the barriers, because we already said we're going to talk about barriers, and we've been really talking about this the whole time, is that we see, especially on social media, or we hear other people talking about doing things for themselves or how they do things. I'm going to do this, and oh, this particular training is great, or this is specifically how I do something. And I think we get caught up in thinking that we have to do things like that, or there's things that are trending and we have to get connected to that. And but that may or may not be the best way for us to move forward. And I think a lot about it with energy. We were talking about, if somebody is sharing something online, Tisha, and they're like, um, I'm doing all these trainings, or I'm facilitating all these things, and it seems like, wow, this person is doing so much. I feel like I need to do that. We have to sit back and think, okay, well, what's actually best for me here?
Yeah. Well, you're right. And, sometimes we put that pressure on ourselves because I see Ailish doing it. I see, somebody else doing it. And I'm like, oh, wow. So don't, I want you to leave, but don't put all the pressure on yourself to have all the answers. I think you need to start with, reflection. What do you need? Where do you see yourself in your world? Where are you successful? Where could be a place that you need to develop? Because we know, we all know where those areas are, and what are you willing to do to take one step forward, and have that growth mindset, and I think that's where it comes from. Is if you truly want self development, then most of us do. We want to grow, we want to develop, and how do we create this growth mindset to allow ourselves that time, and
Mm,
knowing we don't have to have all the answers, and make some intentional planning around it, and have some consistency, something that's doable, because we're all different. We all have, different types of family lives. We all have different work environments. So what's one small thing? And I challenge people, as because I know we're coming to an end, that
mhm.
you can be consistent with in the next week, that you could start, just one. Maybe it's 5 minutes, maybe it's 3 minutes, not sure.
Mm. I think you summed up all of that so well. Having that growth mindset and thinking about, how that connects to actual a habit and consistency. So it's the mindset, and it's also the actions that
Mhm.
you're taking up to back that mindset up. But it's taking one small step, one micro step, whatever that might be, and ultimately that is being your own self advocate. And if you're focused and prioritizing those things, there's going to be noise around you, right? There's going to be other things going on, and there's going to be temptation. There's going to be, I need to help this person, and I need to support this person. But being focused on, yes, we have that growth mindset, but how are we prioritizing and staying consistent for ourselves, and leaning into what energizes us and our mission. That's where we started, as we started with our mission, Tish. So wanted to kind of go back to that as we close out today.
Oh, I just think that's great. Ailish and I would be happy to meet with you and talk about personal mission, because we have to have some kind of direction to get us on path when maybe we're off grid, so to speak, and we need to come back to what we're very passionate about, and what's going to keep you on the path of growth and self-discovery, growth in terms of investing in yourself so that you can be your best.
Absolutely. Well, time always goes by. Speaking of time, we appreciate everyone joining us, or watching afterwards, because this will be available. And we look forward to future Authentic Leadership Lives. If you would like to be with us on Authentic Leadership Live, connect with us, and we have so many programs going on at Schaefer Leadership, both virtual and in person. So check out our monthly programming calendar, and we'll see you next month. Take care.